An admission that globalization has hurt people coming from an unlikely place. United Nations Secretary General-elect Antonio Guterres saying the Trump presidency and Brexit are the result of the establishment having ignored losers of globalization, as he put it, saying, quote, globalization has not been as successful as we had hoped, and lots of people became not only angry with it, but feeling that political establishments and international organizations are not paying attention. We're not taking care of them. Well, joining me now, former Pentagon official, Fox News contributor, KT McFarland. KT, great to have you with us. Let's turn, we have a lot to cover tonight to get some sense of your perspective on this. First, let's start with Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General-elect, making that profound admission. Are you surprised, and does it portend a change in either Europe or this country in attitudes toward the UN itself?
Well, I was surprised he actually said it, because here's a man who is a big believer in globalization, and he's admitted that they've got a problem with globalization. What always struck me, though, was so odd from the very beginning, is why did the globalists of the world think that countries shouldn't have put their own self-interest first? I mean, the old idea of what's wrong with America first, do you think Iran is not putting Iran's interest first, or China not putting China's interest first? So for the globalists to somehow criticize the United States people who are rebelling against globalism, rebelling against the elites, and saying, well, why should they should always think that we're right. They should always be advocates of globalism because, after all, globalism is so great with everybody. So I think it's interesting that that Gutierrez admits that they've got a problem. They've got a big problem, and it's getting worse.
And I think he may have just created a problem for the globalist elites who've been trying to deny that the middle class of this country, for example, are being absolutely savaged by the policies that, under the loosely the rubric of globalization, have resulted in their losses of jobs, their earning power, importantly, their loss of purchasing power, upon which this country's prosperity depends. Now, Germany and China depend on our largesse, if you will, in a global economic system in which we support them. We run deficits, as Donald Trump pointed out throughout the entire campaign. We cannot continue that madness, and it's creating huge, huge fissures in the prospects for the return of prosperity. Let me turn to two geopolitical threats that are extant right now and which are obviously looming for the president-elect and his administration. And first is the Ayatollah, again making threats against America, even as the president, the lame duck president of this country, is seeking ways in which to appease him, to in any way protect that disastrous deal that he constructed.
Well, we all now realize Donald Trump was right when he said the Iran nuke deal, one of the worst deals in American history. And it's because the president and Secretary Kerry and Clinton, they thought, we'll give Iran everything it wants, and we'll give it up front. And then we're going to buy their friendship. They're going to help us in the Middle East. They're going to give up their evil ways of supporting terrorists worldwide. And it turned out that Trump was right. He said at one point in one of the debates, he said, you got to be able to walk. You got to be able to step away from the table if it's not a good deal, because in the end, you get a better deal. Well, the administration never stood away from the table. They just took whatever deal they could get, gave Iran even more, and here's the result. We now have the supreme leader who is threatening the United States, threatening to abrogate the nuclear deal if we don't behave.
Another threat, this time emanating from Russia, Vladimir Putin intensifying military activity within the enclave of Kaliningrad, which is bordered by Belarus and Poland, the Baltics. KT, this is now a problem in prospect for Donald Trump. It's one thing for him to be putting pressure and testing, if you will, a lame duck president, but now with such close proximity, we're at 57 days from the inauguration of Donald Trump, he's creating a problem for a man he said he could do business with.
Well, this is a very aggressive move by Putin, and what he's doing is, you're right, he's putting missiles in Kaliningrad, and that is right smack dab in the middle of NATO. It's between the Baltic states and Poland. And I think Putin's doing that because he knows he can do it. He can get away with it. Obama's not going to do anything to even make a peep to challenge him. And he's trying to have a fait accompli so that when the new President Trump comes into office, there will already be nuclear missiles in Kaliningrad. It's a pretty bold move for Putin, but on the other hand, I think all these countries are going to test the new President Trump, whether it's China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, radical Islam. They all tested. A new president always gets tested, but all these countries are lining up to test this new president.
All right. KT, thanks for being with us. Great to see you. KT McFarland.
Thanks, Lou.